This is my third and final Hercules video. I'm going to talk about the death of Hercules and how that ties into the rest of the story. I'm going to talk about a few more trials he has, and I'm going to end the Hercules series. So yes, I am going to continue with the rest of his 12 trials, but I have to explain a bunch of stuff first, and I have to explain how he dies. He ends up burning, but it's very complicated about how he ends up burning. In order to explain how he ends up burning, I have to reiterate some things and some previous storyline. Okay, so in my very first Hercules video, I didn't bring this up because I'm trying to make this all make sense, okay, because how he dies is kind of complicated. Okay, so along the way, it's sometime right after he very first kills his first trial, the very first, after he kills a royal hind. Along the way, it's not part of his 12 trials, but it happens, and it's very important because it explains how he dies later, okay? Anyways, he meets a group of centaurs. Okay, and at first they're friendly with each other. Okay, they're friendly with each other. Okay, and what he ends up doing, he ends up stealing their beer. Okay, he ends up stealing their beer, and they get really mad. And I discussed all this in this video. It's very important, but I'll reiterate real fast. You have to remember that centaurs are known for getting drunk. They're known for doing the R word, and they're associated with adultery. So they get really mad at Hercules for stealing their beer, okay? For him, he stole their beer. And so they end up attacking him. And the gods kind of tell him that you're going to have to kill all these centaurs. You're going to have to kill them all. So Hercules has to eliminate every single centaur, okay? He has to kill them. And he tries to shoot them with his arrows. He kills them with his arrows, okay? But one centaur, Nasus, escapes, okay, and that centaur ends up killing him kind of later, but that doesn't happen until way later, because this happened in the very beginning of the story. All right, and of course that is a theme and a story in the Bible with Saul and the Amalekites. Okay, God told Saul to kill all of the Amalekites, but one Amalekite escapes. And later, in the book of Esther, that the descendants of that Amalekite end up almost killing all the Jews. That is a parallelism, okay? That is almost the exact same storyline. And it gets even crazier than that, because some people even link Hitler to being, his ancestors being an Amalekites, okay? The Amalekites. So, that's what happens when you don't listen to God, okay? You have to listen to him 100% of the time, not 90% of the time. And it's about not listening to God and your actions having far-reaching consequences. You might not get punished for it right away, but a long time later, you're going to get punished for it, okay? If you don't do what God says, all right? The whole 100%, not like 90%, 100%, okay? Because just like what happens, that Amalekite almost ended up killing a whole bunch of Jews later, and that's exactly what happens to Hercules. This centaur ends up killing Hercules a long time later. It's the exact same storyline almost. Something else I have to reiterate and keep in mind, okay, is you have to remember that Hercules has a bow and arrow, but the tips are poisoned he dips his arrows in the blood of Leviathan. He has very poison-tipped arrows. And Leviathan, the dragon's blood, is like acid, okay? It's like acid that burns you forever and ever, alright? It never stops burning you. It kind of reminds me of that, have you ever seen that Alien movie? And it can burn through metal and everything. It's very, very strong. It reminds me of, if you ever seen the very first Alien movie, where that alien's blood can just melt through all the layers of the ship, so the metal and everything, it just keeps going and going. It's like that. And that's all very important, because that is also how Hercules dies. It's a combination of things, which I'll get to more towards the end of the video. Alright, anyway. And something else I need to reiterate, as explained in my very first Hercules video, okay? The Greeks were just reusing ancient Near East storylines and stories from the Bible, obviously, because obviously the Roman version of Hercules came way after the Old Testament and way after the ancient Near East stories. They were just reusing these stories and repurposing them and saying Hercules did it. okay? But they're so mixed up. The stories are all mixed up. Hercules and the Gilgamesh are almost the same story. They're very similar anyway, okay? And people never stop doing that. People just reuse the same old storylines, and they make new characters like Hunger Games and Iron Man. There's very similar storylines because people just kept doing that. Okay, and I'm gonna bring that up because in my last video I left off with Hercules trying to kill the sun, but they kind of make up a little bit, okay? And the sun gives him a bowl to go on his journey in. It's like a ship, but it's a bowl, okay? And now it's doing the ancient Near East version of Noah's Ark, okay? Because what he does, he starts collecting animals. He has to start collecting animals and putting them in his bowl, which is a boat, but it looks like a bowl. And that's from the ancient Near East. According to the ancient Near East, they have a very similar Noah's Ark story, but Noah's Ark looks more like a bowl. And in this Hercules story, they took that from the ancient Near East and of course from the Bible. Okay, he's on his journey. He's floating on his bowl. He's continuing his 12 trials. He's trying to redeem himself. Remember, he's trying to redeem himself. So to continue the story, he's just going along on his boat. On his way, he goes across the water, and he puts up 2 pillars, which is a very famous part of the story. Okay, the pillars of Hercules. He puts up 2 pillars to remember that part of the journey. Okay, that he crossed the river, he crossed the sea. Okay, and that's obviously in the Bible. Okay, so when the Israelites crossed over the Red Sea, Solomon later put up a pillar to commemorate the event. He put up a pillar once they crossed the sea to remember what the Israelites did right there. And that's what Hercules is doing. He put up pillars to commemorate that he crossed over. Okay, and then the Bible does that another time that I can think of. Okay, when the Israelites crossed over the River Jordan, they put up a pillar. The bricks, okay, they put up the stones, the pillar stones, to remember that the rest of the Jews crossed over the river, okay, and that's what's going on here. And I have to read this Bible passage because you have to remember that Hercules gets set on fire, but he crossed the waters, but he got set on fire, okay, but the Israelites didn't. And of course, that's what this is talking about. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep you over. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, and flames will not set you ablaze. It's so funny because Hercules passed through the waters, and he did get set on fire. Is there a connection there? Of course. Okay? Because Hercules didn't have the God of the Bible with him. He had Zeus, the devil. Okay? And I wanted to do the Samson connection real fast, okay? Okay, people, you connect this with Samson, okay? Yes, okay, Samson's very similar because probably Hercules was a ripoff of Samson anyway, because that's what they did. They just took a whole bunch of stories, mixed them together, and made Hercules. But let's really look at the difference in what God is trying to say, maybe. Hercules put 2 pillars up, but Samson tore 2 pillars down. Okay, because these pillars represent lots of deep meaning, okay? Yes, it's to remember things, but sometimes people put pillars or flags into the ground to claim a territory, okay? To claim a space for their own. And God is trying to say he's reclaiming the territory by tearing down Hercules' pillars, okay? When Satan claims a territory, you take down his pillars and put up a new one for God, okay? It's about reclaiming God's place on earth, all right? Okay, the next thing along his way is he has to fight off a sea monster to save a princess. This sea monster looks different in every version, okay, in different versions. Sometimes the sea monster looks like Leviathan again, which is still relevant because Leviathan can be a sea monster. He's a hydra. Sometimes the sea monster looks like an octopus. This is a depiction of that. These Greek sea monsters always look a little bit different, okay? Anyway, he has to save a princess from a sea monster. I already have a sea monster video right here. I did go with the octopus version, even though the Leviathan version is fine too, the sea monster. But there's something I wanted to bring up with this is that There's a bunch of different versions of the story, but the version that I like is that he killed the sea monster with a magic stone. And that's exactly what David did with Goliath, right? He killed him with a stone. And there's some parallelism there, alright? Anyway, he keeps going on his magic boat, okay? And it starts getting very chaotic in this ocean. It's very stormy. He can't go much further because it's very, very stormy and windy, and there's a tornado, hurricane, okay? And he sees like the storm sea god right there. And the storm sea god decides to help him by calming the storm so he can keep going. And obviously that's in the Bible. Jesus does that, okay? He calms the storm so they can keep going on their journey. Now this is really important, and this is that weird parallelism again, but with another Greek story though. In my opinion, this is Cyclops stuff. It's almost literally the same story, it's just a little bit different. So the next part of this story is he has to steal cattle from this multi-headed giant. Okay, he has to go to this island and steal cattle from this giant. And he's made up of many people, that's why he has a bunch of heads, okay? And that is almost the exact same story as the Cyclops. In the Cyclops story, the hero has to go and steal the Cyclops' cattle. And even in the Cyclops story, his name is Polyphemus, which means many people. Okay? It's almost nearly the same story, except the Hercules version doesn't have him looking like with one eye, though. It's very similar, though. It's almost the same story. But this giant has a Cerberus-like creature protecting him. This thing is actually the Cerberus' brother. So he has to kill that Cerberus animal first. And then he kills like this giant. And then he collects all the cattle and he puts them in this bowl, which is some weird Noah's Ark stuff. By the way, he's been doing that part of the time with these animals. Sometimes he kills them, sometimes he puts them on a boat, okay, which is some weird Noah's Ark reference, I think, because that's exactly what happened in the ancient Near East version too. A hero comes and collects animals and puts them on a boat. But as usual, Hera is constantly trying to get him to fail his missions, and so she sends gadflies to make the cattle go crazy, so they run off, so he has to capture them again. And he still doesn't capture them all. Some of them escape again. And that's what Hera does. She's constantly trying to mess him up. Okay, now that's supposed to be the end of his labors. He's supposed to be done. Okay, but Hera acts like a lawyer or something, and she starts getting all like, you didn't read the fine print. Actually, you failed 2 of your labors because the Hydra, he wasn't supposed to get help killing the Hydra, but he did get help killing the Hydra. And then he wasn't supposed to receive payment for when he flooded the barn, and I guess he accepted payment, even though he never got paid. So he has to do more labors to make up for those labors. Okay, so Hera's messing with him. He thought he was done, but he has to keep going. Okay, so now that this is some weird Garden of Eden stuff, and it's the exact same story in the Gilgamesh, okay? It's literally almost the same story, because that's probably where the Greeks got it, and it's probably because there's some truth behind it, like the Garden of Eden really happened. Okay, so the next task he has to do, just like the Gilgamesh, he has to go steal some golden apples from this tree, but there's snakes there protecting it, okay? And the Gilgamesh has the same story. But there's a bunch of problems with it. First of all, he can't touch the apples because he's not worthy. He's not allowed to touch the apples because he's not a god. Okay? And these apples, if you eat them, they give you everlasting life. Alright? Even in the Gilgamesh, he doesn't get to eat the apples. The snakes steal back his apples. Okay? It's very Garden of Eden-ish, obviously. Anyway, so what he does, he goes to this other god named Atlas. Now, this is very important. I'm going to talk about Atlas a little bit more. I'm brushing through all these monsters because I already did so many videos on monsters. I have a whole series on Greek monsters, so I'm kind of just blasting through the monsters, okay? I'm focusing on the gods and the heroes right now, okay? So what he does, he goes to Atlas, and this is very important because Atlas, he is an enemy of Zeus, and it's kind of confusing if he's supposed to be good or bad, okay, but he's known for 2 things. He's known for holding up the earth, okay, bearing the earth on his shoulders, and he's known for he's known for holding up the sky, okay? And there is some truth behind that, okay? It doesn't matter which version it is, because you could just use either one, because there is someone who is bearing your sins on his back, who bared his sins on his back, okay? And even if you believe the other version, which is this man that holds the sky up, okay? There is a force that is holding the sky up. You can call it the Earth's atmosphere, you can call it the magnetic field, you can call it the gravitational force, you can call it whatever you want, but there is an invisible force that is holding the sky separate from the Earth, right? But God is the one that's separating the sky from the Earth, right? Okay, God is doing that. It's not Atlas or something else. There is a force that's holding the Earth up and the sky up. It's obviously the God of the Bible, okay? And they're probably making these stories about these men holding up the earth and sky because they couldn't understand what was doing it, because it's an invisible force, right? You can't actually see pillars literally holding up the sky, but there's something that's separating the sky from falling on us, right? Even though that might happen, okay? God might take that away one day. It depends on what you think is going to happen in the book of Revelation, okay? The ceiling might fall in on you one day, all right? Once you remove God, bad things are going to happen, all right? God might remove that protection from the sky falling on you, okay? According to them, it was Atlas, and obviously I'm going to say it's Jesus and the God of the Bible who is protecting you from the sky falling, okay? Because that's what Atlas is doing. He's holding up the earth and he's holding up the sky, and he's separating the two so they don't crash into each other, okay? And one day God might separate that. He might release that protection from people if you don't repent, okay? And lots of Greeks viewed Atlas as being enduring because he was doing all that hard work, so that happens. And, because he's an enemy of Zeus, which I think is very interesting. He's an enemy of Zeus, and he's known for doing all the hard work while everyone else is partying. Like Zeus and his siblings are partying and stuff, and Atlas is doing all the work for everyone while they're hanging out and doing nothing. That's why some people like Atlas, and I'm obviously going to connect that to the god, okay? Okay, but back to the Hercules part. So Hercules goes to Atlas because he is worthy to touch the apples, alright, and he knows where the garden is and all that stuff, and so he makes him a deal. Atlas says, if you hold the earth up for me for a while, if you bear it with me, I will give you the everlasting life apples. I'm obviously going to connect that to the Bible, okay? Okay, so it's so funny because that's obviously in the Bible, because in the Bible, the cross was carried by two people, not just one, right? And the whole message is that you're going to have to endure it too. You're going to have to go through it too, not just Jesus. You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to be the pillar, okay? You're going to have to separate the doom from happening too soon, all right? You're gonna have to separate the skies from falling, all right? And you're gonna have to get people to repent. Is it gonna be hard? Is it gonna be like holding up the earth? Yes, all right? And it gets even better than that, because obviously, Atlas is when they depict Atlas holding up the earth, it looks like what the earth looks like now. It's like round, right? But back then they didn't know the earth was round, and the earth to them literally looked like a cross. Okay, look at this old Babylonian map. See, this is supposed to be the map of the world. See that cross in the middle of it? So the cross version of a man holding a cross is actually more historically accurate. But that's great. That's just too good. That's just amazing to me. Because these maps literally had crosses in the middle of them. That was the depiction of the earth. Okay, so anyway, so Atlas goes and gets the apples for him, but for some reason, I guess Hercules is still not worthy he doesn't get to eat the apples. He has to actually go get him to go put them back and stuff. Okay, so he doesn't get to eat the apples because I guess he's still not worthy. I guess because he's not done with his trials. Alright, anyway. Okay, and finally we're going to get into his last labor, and we're going to talk about his death and stuff, which is really, really, really important. Okay, so his last labor is he has to go through the layers of the underworld. Okay, he has to go through the layers of the underworld, which is Labyrinth stuff. Okay, I already have a Labyrinth video right here. It's all related to the Labyrinth and going into the very confusing path to the underworld. Okay, and he has to get Cerberus. He has to capture the Cerberus. Okay, and wrestle with the Cerberus. Cerberus is just a multi-headed Greek hellhound. It's like a guardian of the underworld, okay? And he gets the Cerberus, he wrestles it, he captures it. Okay, it's the same thing as the other story where the hero has to go into the underworld to wrestle with the Minotaur, except they're just changing the monster, okay? They're reusing same old storylines over and over again. In the other Greek Labyrinth myth, you have to wrestle with the Minotaur, and in this Greek myth, you have to wrestle with the Cerberus. And the Egyptian version, you wrestle with a snake or dragon. It's literally just changing up the monster. They're reusing storylines that probably came from Egypt, okay, because they have the exact same storyline, okay? They're just switching the monster, okay? They're reusing storylines, obviously. And on the way out, this is really important, he has an encounter with Medusa, okay? But something weird happens. He sees Medusa, but she goes behind a rock or a pathway, and what comes out is his friend, a ghost, okay? And he encounters his friend that's died, and he convinces him to marry his sister when he gets back to Earth, okay? In my opinion, I'm going to add in my own perspective what's going on here. Medusa is a Gorgon. I already have a Medusa video right here, which is very important because then we're going to talk about that again. I already have a Medusa video. Medusa is a Gorgon, and I know Medusa is just known for turning people into stone, but it actually gets really complicated about what she can do, because Gorgons have the ability to make you hallucinate. In my opinion, that's still Medusa pretending to be his friend. Okay, she's just shape-shifting or making him believe that she's shape-shifting. She's messing with his head, just like Hera does in the beginning of the video, and he's just hallucinating that it's his friend when it's really just her. Okay, that's what I think, because that's what Gorgons do. They have the ability to make you hallucinate. So Medusa's making him hallucinate that he's seeing his friend, but it's really just her. Alright? And I think there's a lot of revelation in that, because in real life, I think ghosts are demons. They're just tricking you to make you believe you're seeing a dead loved one, but it's really just them messing with you. There's so much revelation you can use, okay? And so technically, this Medusa is responsible for making him die too, because she convinces him to marry this guy's sister, and that all of this leads to his death, okay? All of these monsters lead to his demise. They all work together to make sure he dies at the end, which is exactly the message here, okay? And so that's exactly what happens. He comes up from the underworld. He captures Cerberus, okay? He usually presents these monsters to a king to prove that he captured them, but then he puts them back. Or he puts them on a boat. Or he releases them, wrestles them and releases them, okay? Okay. Now he's supposed to be finally done with his labors. He's supposed to be saved. Okay, and there's a lot of message you can use this. This is so messed up because it could be about salvation through works. He worked really hard to make sure that he was redeemed when he actually was just on his way to hell. Okay, anyway, so he's redeemed. He marries that guy that ghost told him to marry his sister, and he did. And all this leads to his death. Okay. So he marries that guy's sister. He gets because that's what happens when you listen to ghosts, and God tells you not to listen to ghosts, to get information from ghosts, because they're just to mess with you and make sure you die, make sure you burn, which is exactly what happens. Okay, he marries his sister, and it kind of sounds like he settles down for a little bit. He retires. He's with his new wife. Everything seems fine, or it's supposed to be fine. And what happens is the Centaur pretends to help his wife across the river, but he doesn't realize it's that Centaur he let go a long time ago. Okay, and as soon as the Centaur gets a hold of his wife, the Centaur tries to do the R word to her, because that's what Centaurs are known for doing. They're known for doing the R word, and they're also known for adultery, because they take other men's wives away. Okay, and that's what he's doing. Okay, they're known for adultery, and they're known for doing the R word too, which is exactly what's going on here. Okay, and so what Hercules does is that he shoots he gets his dragon-tipped arrows, and he shoots. This is very important because this is how he dies later. He shoots the Centaur, okay? And as the Centaur is dying, you have to realize the Centaur's blood is tainted with the poison now, okay? It's the poison mixing with the Centaur blood. Anyway, so the Centaur convinces Hercules' wife that if she saves his blood, if Hercules ever cheats on her, that he can use his magic blood to win him back. Okay, so that's what she does. She saves the Centaur's blood in case Hercules ever falls in love with another woman. She can use the blood as like a love potion to get him back. Of course, the Centaur was just lying to her because now it's just really, really, really poisoned blood. And the Centaur was just tricking her to give it to Hercules later, which ends up happening. Okay, so what happens is Hercules sounds like he's settling down again. He sounds like he's in the clear. He's fine, you know. And now Hercules is going to sound like a real tool. Okay, I have no idea how anyone who has any kind of morals is reading this rest of this Hercules story and thinking that he's a hero. He sounds like such a tool, and he sounds like a creep. Okay, I have no idea how anyone reads this and thinks that he's a good guy. So what he does is, of course, he ends up cheating on or finding another woman. Okay, which is against her will, by the way. Okay, he finds another woman he wants to marry. He wants to be with her. Okay, even though he's already married and has kids at this point again. He obviously thinks he deserves a side piece. Okay, he finds this other woman, and the girl's dad doesn't want him to be with her. He doesn't like Hercules because he knows that he already killed his family before, and everyone knows that. Anyway, so Hercules gets mad and decides to kidnap this woman. Okay, and drag her out into the wilderness. He ties her up and drags her out to the wilderness. Disgusting. Okay, and of course, Diana finds out about this. Okay, and instead of being disgusted and just like, without saying he's a creep or something, or calling the police, she decides that she's still in love with him and gives him a robe that is dipped in the Centaur blood. Okay, because she thinks it's going to make him fall in love with her again. Of course, it's a trick, and this robe is set on fire. It's like acid, okay, and it starts burning him, and he's freaking out, okay, and then he gets set on fire. He either sets himself on fire, or somebody else sets him on fire. He does the weirdest thing. He's burning in acid, and then he decides to set himself on fire. Okay, and then that's how he dies. Okay, now we're gonna really break that down. First of all, Hercules is not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, he obviously died. Even if he spent his whole life living for God, he decided to be a creeper at the end. He decided to be a cheating kidnapper. Okay, and it doesn't matter if he was good, and he doesn't sound good at the end, okay? And he actually became everything that he fought against. He was fighting against the Centaurs, but he became one because he decided to be an adulterer and a kidnapper, and even someone who does the R word. And on top of that, even in the beginning of part of the story, he was trying to save the sea monster kidnapped king's daughter, and that's what he's doing. He's becoming a monster. He is becoming a monster. He became the exact thing he was fighting against. And that's exactly what's going to happen to you if you don't accept Christ, okay? He became the nastiest person by the end of the story, thinking that he was a good guy. We're gonna break this down again. You can very easily say that Hercules just died and went to hell, okay? Which is what happened at face value. So I'm going to talk about why Hercules decides to set himself on fire. What's the meaning behind that? Why in the world did he do that? Okay, I believe that he was set himself on fire because that poisonous blood burns through all the layers, right? And what he was trying to do is he was trying to burn the poison away before it reached his soul. Okay, that's what I think is going on. He was trying to burn off the poison before it reached his soul, because once it hits your soul, it's too late, right? But I am trying to add something more positive to this because Hercules represents a lot of different things. Okay, what does Hercules represent? He could represent someone who was originally doing something good but decided to be bad at the end. He could represent someone who was actually doing God's work, but decided at the end that he deserved a little bit of sin in his life, and that ended up killing him, right? He can represent so many different things. Hercules could represent a sports star. Half the time there's definitely some sports references in the stories. He sounds like a traveler, a world traveler. He sounds like a conqueror. He sounds like a hunter. You can even use Hercules to represent a police officer, right? Because he's out there. He sounds like a bounty hunter half the time. All right, he's collecting bad guys, locking them up. He's throwing them into the underworld. You could use Hercules to explain lots of different types of people right now. Okay, you can use Hercules to explain so many different types of people. He's just a basic hero. Okay, you can even use Hercules to explain movies. Half the movies on your TV screen right now are for sure based off of the Hercules storyline. Part of it, anyway. For sure. You can totally say Hercules represents a movie star or someone who watches movies. He's a soldier. He is a police officer. He is a sports star. He sounds like a hero, but he's really not. Okay, because he decides that he deserves to be bad at the end. He deserves a woman that he wants, even though he's already married. He deserves a little sin in his life because he already did so much good, right? He already worked his sin off, so he deserves sin in his life at the end. Hey man, you can even use Hercules to explain even a ghost hunter. Okay, he was talking to a ghost. He got information from a ghost who's really just a demon, and he acted on it. Even though God tells you in the Bible not to talk to ghosts, people still do, thinking that these things are helping them when they're really just leading you to your death. This is the only way you can view Hercules as a happy ending. And no, I'm not talking about Hercules. I'm talking about these people. I'm talking about people who love sports. I'm talking about police officers. Okay, I'm talking about people that Hercules could represent. Okay, we're gonna really break this down because this is a story in the Bible. Okay, so Hercules is being the poison of the dragon is seeping through his body, and he's about to die. That is a story in the Bible. Okay, and he's freaking out, right? So in the Bible, Moses and the Israelites are out in the wilderness, and they did something bad, and so they are sent snakes. Okay, they're sent flying fiery serpents, and they bite the Israelites. It's almost like that poison is seeping through their bodies, and they're about to die. Okay, and Hercules and these Israelites have a very similar storyline. Okay, and what does Moses tell them to do? He said, because they're about to die, and Hercules is about to die too. Okay, and what does Moses tell the Israelites right before they're about to end it? Before it's about to be over. He tells them to look at the bronze serpent. Okay, it's very strange because he tells them to look to another snake. Okay, to heal themselves. Okay, and people connect this bronze serpent to Jesus, and I know that sounds really weird because even in this is talking about anti-venom. Okay, even in real life, you need another snake to cancel out the poison in your body. You need anti-venom, and the whole idea is that Jesus is the anti-venom. If you have sin in your life, if you are an adulterer or a murderer, or because without Jesus you're always sinning. Okay, that poison is already eating your soul away right now. Okay, you've already been bit by the serpent. You're already writhing in agony. You just don't know it yet. So back to the Hercules thing. I'm going to try to really look into this, okay? Because you can very easily say that Hercules just died and went to hell because him burning to death forever doesn't sound very good, okay? Or him being set on fire definitely could be hell talk. And I was just going to leave it at that. Because if you are guilty of these things, you are going to burn, okay? But there's only one good thing you can take out of this using the biblical definition of what being on fire means. Okay, so Hercules gets set on fire. Either he sets himself on fire or he has somebody else do it. Okay, because there's only one good thing you can see through this. Not because I'm trying to give Hercules a happy ending. I'm trying to give y'all a happy ending. Okay, these people a happy ending. The choice is up to you. This is the only way you can give Hercules a happy ending, and this is the only way I can see anything good coming out of the story. Okay, because God does use you separating the sins of the flesh from your soul using fire. God does use fire, you being set on fire, to clean away your sin before it's too late. You can view this, him being set on fire, as some sort of him repenting before he died, okay? Because God does you being set on fire to clean away your sins. And it's not because I'm trying to give Hercules a happy ending. I'm trying to give these people a happy ending, okay? But that's really me really reading into the story. Okay, so you can either view Hercules burning to death forever and ever in hell, or you can you view this as him finally repenting before he died, before it was too late. Because that's exactly what happened to these Israelites. And this is not about Hercules. It's not about you fighting about what happened to Hercules. It's about what's going to happen to you. Okay? It's your choice. You can burn to death forever and ever, or you can walk through the fire of salvation and burn away your sins and take the anti-venom. And the choice is really up to you. Because I don't care what happened to some imaginary character on TV or from a long time ago. It's talking about you. Okay? And the choice is up to you. You can take the anti-venom. You can cleanse your sins away through the fire of God, or you can burn to death forever and ever. Okay? You can choose Jesus or choose death. And that's what you have to decide. Alright, so that's my end of my Hercules myths. Okay, I'm not going to do any more Hercules stuff. This is my first video, this is my second video, and this is my final video. Alright, so please think about this stuff, guys, and thank you.